Hi, Algebra 1. It's Wednesday. I'm not here today, obviously. Please make sure you watch the video. Hey, make sure you copy all these down. Make sure you have all these assignments done. I will go over every problem for the next couple days, and I will be marking that off on Monday. Also remind you, some of you need to finish up some test or quizzes, or you need to take them. So let's try and get them done by next week. I mean, the end of the school year is coming quickly. You don't want to have it all bundled up by the end. I mean, some points is better than 0 points, right? So, all right, first problem. We have 2 root 75. So we have to realize 75 breaks down to 25 times 2. And the reason I'm using 25 is 25 is a perfect square. Or actually, 25 times 3, excuse me. So square root of 25 is 5. And then multiply the outside number, so I'm going to get 10 square root 3. Problem number 2, we have 3 square root 8. Let's break 8 down to 4 times 2. 4 is a perfect square because 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 4 is 2, so I'm going to get that. 3 times 2 is 6. Multiply the outside numbers, so 6 root 2. Problem number 3, root 11 times root 11. Well, this is just going to be 11. If I multiply them together, if I multiply the exact same two numbers together, I am guaranteed to get a perfect square. And so root 11 times root 11 is root 121. Root 21 is 11. Number 4, I have root 8 times root 14. So sometimes when we get to these, let's think about this. This is the same thing as 8 times 14. Do you agree? And you could multiply 8 and 14 together if you wanted to. Or watch this. Break 8 down, which is 4 times 2. Agree? Break 14 down, which is 2 times 7. So now, square root of 4 is 2. But if I multiply those two numbers together, what do I get? I also get 4. So square root of that 4 is also 2. So another 2 comes out, and the square root 7 stays behind. 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 root 7. So sometimes it's better to start breaking the numbers down and see if you can pair up some numbers. Paired up numbers are perfect squares. Number 5, we have 5 square root 10 times 3 square root 15. So let's multiply outside, outside, so that's going to give me 15. If I do inside, inside, that's fine, but watch this. If I break down 10, I get 5 times 2. Agree? If I break 15 down, I get 3 times 5. Do you see a perfect square underneath? Yeah, those two 5s, when I multiply them together, they become 25, and square root of 25 is 5. So I have 15 outside. Those 5s make a 5 outside, and then 2 times 3 is 6. Multiply these together, and that's going to give me 75 root 6. Problem number 6, I have 25, under the square root, x squared y to the 6th. So square root of 25 is 5. These are both even exponents. So take half of them, take the square root. Half of 2 is 1. Half of 6 is 3. So look at that. There's no more radical. That was a perfect square. Problem number 7, I get square root 20, x raised to the 4th. Let's break 20 down to 4 times 5. X to the 4th is already a perfect square because it's raised to an even number. Remember, an even number is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc. Okay, so square root of 4 is 2. If I take the square root of this, I take half of that, so that's going to give me x to the 2nd outside. Inside, I'm still left with square root 5. Problem number 8, we have square root 8 y to the 6th. All right, so let's break 8 down to 4 times 2. Y to the 6th, that's an even exponent. So that's fine, that's a perfect square. So square root of 4 is 2. Square root of y to the 6th, half of 6 is 3. And then I'm left with square root 2. If there's any of these that I'm working out, and you're not quite sure why they worked the way they did, put a little star next to it or circle it so we can go over it on Monday, okay? All right, so problem number 9, I'm going to get 5. 18 breaks down to 9 times 2, which is a perfect square. Then I'm going to break this up to x squared times x to the 1st. Oops, what's going on? I got to restart that. It started getting goofy on me. Give me a second to get it loaded. All right, number 9. Here we go. Number 9. We have 5 square root 18x to the third. So let's break 18 down to 9 times 2. And then let's break x to the third down to x squared times x to the first. You don't have to have the 1 there, but it's okay if you do. So square root of 9 is 3, so that's going to join the 5 outside. Square root of x squared is going to be x, and then that's going to give me 2x. Multiply outside, so I get 15 times 3x is 15x, root 2x. Number 10, we have square root 50 y to the 7th. So let's break 50 down to 25 times 2 because 25 is a perfect square. Let's break y to the 7th down to an even and an odd. So x to the 6th and then y to the first. Square root of 25 is 5. Square root of y to the 6th, take half of 6, so you get 3. And then I have 2y right there. Number 11, I have square root 72, x to the third, y to the fourth. Let's break 72 down to 36 times 2. 36 is my biggest perfect square. Remember, we have the list of perfect squares on the previous pages, so you can refer back to those. Divide by calculator. Let's break x to the third down to x to the second times x to the first. Y to the fourth is already a perfect square, so we're good there. So then square root of 36 is 6. Square root of x squared is x, or x to the first. Square root of y to the fourth is y to the second. So they come out when they're perfect squares. Then 2x to the first, or just 2x, is left behind. There's my answer. Number 12, 7 square root 12, x to the 6th, y to the 4th. Well, let's break 12 down. Let's break it to 4 times 3. Let's not use 6 and 2 because 6 and 2 are not perfect squares. Okay, so the square root of 4 is 2. That joins the 7 out there. Square root of x to the 6th is x to the third, because you take half of it. Square root of y to the fourth is y to the second, because I take half the exponent. Then I'm left with just a square root 3. I just clean it up. 7 times 2 is 14. X to the third, y to the second, square root 3. There's my answer. Number 13, I get square root x y to the 5th times square root 2y to the third. Okay, so we can multiply inside, so 8 times 2 is 16. And if I multiply these together, remember I add the exponents. So 5 plus 3 is 8. That worked out really nicely. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of y to the 8th is just y to the 4th. There's no longer a radical because that was a perfect square. Number 14, I get square root 6xy squared, then square root 3x squared y squared. Okay, so we can multiply the 6 and the 3 together underneath. It gives me 18. I'm going to leave x and x squared. I'm going to leave them separate because x squared is already a perfect square. And then y to the second times y to the second is y to the fourth. Again, you're adding the exponents, and that gives you a perfect square. The reason I added the y's is it gave me a perfect square. The reason I didn't take care of the x's is one of them was already a perfect square. All right, we can break 18 down to 9 times 2, x squared, y to the fourth. So square root of 9 is 3. Square root of x squared is x to the first, or just x. Square root of y to the fourth is just y squared. Remember, take half of it, and I have 2x left behind. Number 15, I get 2 square root 8x to the fourth times 5 square root 2x to the third. Let's multiply the outside numbers together first, so that's going to give me 10. And then I'm going to multiply the inside. 8 times 2 is 16. Oh, that's nice. That's a perfect square. And then if I add those exponents together, I get x to the 7th. So then let's break x to the 7th down. I can break that down to x to the 6th and x, because that now gives out a perfect square. So the square root of 16 is 4, joins the 10 outside. Square root of x to the 6th, take half of that. And then I'm just left behind with a square root x. Clean up outside. 10 times 4 is 40. X to the third, square root x. Okay. 16 and 17, why don't we skip those? Okay. You don't have to worry about those. We'll focus on those a different day, okay? All right. So today what we're going to do is I need you to flip back, go back in your book. Let's see, we're doing... Go back to page 77 in your book. We haven't done that yet. Okay? And I'm going to assign all of them. So it's page 77 and 78 all. But let me work out some of them, just so we stay fresh on this. So if we look at problem number 1, I have x squared minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. Let's go ahead and factor these. So we might be able to do this the faster way, because I have a 1 out front, so I'm going to put an x and an x. I notice I have a positive there, so that means that both signs have to be the same. And I have a negative there, so that means they're both going to be negative. So what two numbers multiply to give me 2 and add to give me 3? And that would be 2 and 1. You know, negative 2 and negative 1 add together to give me negative 3. Then let's set both of these equal to 0 and solve them. So add 2 to both sides to get x by itself. Add 1 to both sides, so we get x equals 1. And those are my solutions. Problem number 3 is x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals 0. Again, we might be able to do this our quicker way, because out front is just x squared. So what two numbers multiply to give me positive 16, add to give me negative 8? Well, because this is a positive at the very end, that means the signs have to be the same. Because that's a negative, both signs are negative. So I would say 4 and 4 both work, because negative 4 and negative 4 add to give me negative 8. So I get x minus 4 equals 0. And I have that twice. So that's going to give me 4 and add 4. So 4 and 4 are both my answers. So you have two of the exact same answer, which is kind of fun. Number 5, we have c squared plus 6c plus 5 equals 0. Again, because out front is a 1, we could probably do it our quicker way. You can still do it the other way where you multiply them, but sometimes this might be a little quicker. All the signs are positive, so all the signs are positive here. So what two numbers multiply to give me 5 and add to give me 6? Yeah, that would be 5 and 1. 5 plus 1 is 6. So then set each of these equal to 0. Subtract 5 from both sides. There's one answer. Subtract 1 from both sides. There's our other answer. Number 7, I get x squared minus 49 equals 0. Okay, so this is one of our special cases, because x times x is a perfect square, or x squared is a perfect square, and 49 is a perfect square, so I'm going to put x, and 7, because 7 times 7 is 49, and I'm going to have a positive sign and a negative sign. Let's go ahead and set both these equal to 0 and solve. Subtract 7 here. X minus 7 equals 0. Add 7 here. And you got it. Number 9, it's going to be the same way. I have m squared minus 64 equals 0. M squared is a perfect square. 64 is a perfect square. We have a subtraction sign. So I'm going to put m and m. 8 and 8, because 8 times 8 is 64. I'll have a positive and a negative sign. Okay, this is called the difference of two squares. It's equal to 0. So set each equal to 0. So subtract 8. M minus 8 equals 0. Add 8 to both sides. So negative 8 and positive 8 are my answers. I'm now going to be on page 78. Page 78. Problem number 11. We have d squared minus 2d equals 0. We're missing one of the terms, but I could factor d out of both. That gives me d and d minus 2. And then I'm going to set each part equal to 0. So d equals 0 is one answer. D minus 2 equals 0. So add 2 to both sides. There's my other answer. And number 13, I get 2x squared minus 5x plus 2 equals 0. We might not want to do this that special way. So I'm going to multiply those together. That's going to give me a positive 4. Okay, in order to get a positive number here, and that's a positive, both signs have to be the same, because I have a negative sign there, it's going to be negative, negative. So what two numbers am I going to squeeze in the middle? Okay, what two numbers multiply together give me 4, add together to give me negative 5. And that would be negative 4x and negative 1x. So we're going to squeeze that in between, whatever order you want. What do I have in common here? I have a 2x in common. That's going to give me x minus 2. In fact, that middle sign always comes down. Change both signs. So that's a negative 1 coming out. And then those are the same. That's what you want. So x minus 2 and 2x minus 1 is factored. Set them equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0. Add 2 to both sides. There's my first answer. 2x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 to both sides. Divide each side by 2. There's our answers. Number 15. You have 3x squared minus 8x plus 4 equals 0. So we're going to multiply those together. That's going to give me a positive 12. In order to get a positive number when multiplying, both signs have to be the same. Because I have a negative there, that tells us both signs are negative. So 1 times 12 is 12, also 2 times 6, also 3 times 4. So which of those, both being negative, would add up to the negative 8? And that would give me that. So I'm going to have negative 2x and negative 6x I'm going to plug in. So I'm going to get 3x squared minus 2x minus 6x plus 4. Let's factor that out. I can factor an x out, and that leaves me 3x minus 2. The middle sign comes down. Factor out a negative 2. Change both signs. So then I get 3x minus 2 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. So add 2 to both sides here. Divide by 3. So there's our first answer. Second answer, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. And there's my 2 answers. Number 17 looks a little bit different. Why does it look different? Well, it needs to equal 0. So I'm going to keep y squared over here. I'm going to subtract 8y, so I have minus 8y to bring it over. I'm going to subtract 20 to bring it over. Now it's equal to 0. Okay, if I subtracted 8y from both sides, and I subtracted 20 from both sides, those cancel, and that gives me the 0. We might be able to do this our quicker way. So I have a y and a y. Okay. Things I need to think about. I have a negative number here, so I have a positive and a negative. So think about the numbers that make up negative 20. 1 being positive, 1 being negative. I have 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Which of those, 1 being positive, 1 being negative, would add up to the negative 8? Yeah, it would be the 10 and the 2. So I'd have a negative 10y and a positive 2y. That would combine together to give me that. So I have a negative, so I don't even have to have the y. So I have not minus 10 here, positive 2 there. It's done. So then set those equal to 0. So subtract 2 from both sides. Add 10 to both sides. Okay, and let's take a look at number 19. I get x squared equals 30 plus x. Same idea. I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So those cancel. I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides. Those cancel. It's equal to 0. I think we can still do it our quick way. What do you think? X and x. So I'm going to have a positive and a negative. So think about this. In order to get a negative number, I have to have a positive or negative to get a negative 1. All right, so I have 1 and 30. That's not going to add up to negative 1. 2 and 15. That won't add up to negative 1. 3 and 10. That won't add up to the negative 1. 5 and 6. Those will. Which one has to be negative? Right, the 6 to get a negative 1. If you flip-flopped it, that would be a positive 1. But we're good to go. So solve this. That's minus 5. X minus 6 equals 0. Add 6 to both sides. And there's our answers. Then let's get done with just number 21. Might as well finish it off. I hope your day is going well. All right, so it's equal to 50. I'm going to subtract 50 from both sides to make it equal to 0. Those cancel out, so I get x squared plus 3x minus 54 equals 0. So I think because outside it's just an x, I can just do x and x. I have a negative here, so I have to have a positive and a negative. So let's think about the factors. In order to get a negative number, one has to be positive, one has to be negative. I want them to add up to that 3. right? So I have 1 and 54. Well, that's not going to add up to 3. I have 2 and 27. That's not going to add up to 3. I have 3 and, let's see, 23 and 18. And that's not going to add up to 3. I'm going to have 4 does not work. 5 does not work. 6 and 9. How about 6 and 9? Are 6 and 9 3 apart? Yes. Which one has to be positive in order to get a positive 3? It has to be a positive 9 and a negative 6. If those equal to 0. So x plus 9 equals 0. X minus 6 equals 0. Let's subtract 9 from both sides. Add 6 to both sides. And there you go. So, friends, please finish page 77 and 78. Do make sure all of them are done. I just did the odds. Try the evens. I will go over the evens for Thursday, but give it a try. I know a lot of you are still struggling with the factoring. Try it. We have the notes on it, so give it a good try. Hope everything's going well. Have a nice day, everybody.